All right. Well, I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. So let me get to the slideshow for today. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
Thank you. So as you can see, this session is about contextual hyperlinks. My name is Amy Shore. I'm a professor in the Cinema and Screen Studies department, and I was a accessibility fellow for the last cycle. And when we had to pick our topics, I thought contextual hyperlinks, everybody knows that already. And then I started reading emails and looking at things from everyone. And I thought, I don't think everybody knows this. So I've tried to put it into a framework that's fairly straightforward and that hopefully will also convince y'all that it's valuable to use these hyperlinks this way, not only for your students, but for your regular communications. So here we go. I've only got 20 minutes. What I'm going to be working off of today is the guidelines from the New York State Education Department. Not because our guidelines are insufficient, but there's just a few more that they provide at SED's website. And since we are part of the New York State Education Department community, thought it'd be helpful for us to use those. So there's a couple guidelines. One, when you're creating links inside of a text, use concise and meaningful text for the links. I'm going to just go through these and then I'm going to dig into them after this. 2, do not capitalize all letters in links. 3, avoid using URLs for the link text, meaning www.blablabla.com, ////. And then 4th, do not use the word link as part of the link text. So I've given you an example at the bottom. For additional information about NYSED's guidance, visit Create Accessible Hyperlinks. So you can see it's underlined. It describes what you're going to be linking to, a description of SED's document about creating accessible hyperlinks. Does not use a URL, does not capitalize, and I don't use link in front of it. So now let's dig into the guidelines. And one of the things I'm going to add is, why are these the guidelines? So we're not just sort of annoyed by yet more tasks that we have to keep in mind. Instead, we have purpose for it. So 1, use concise and meaningful text for the links. So what does that mean? Now I have to sort of close up my, oh, I know I did this again. This is, can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's the Zoom
Yeah,
meeting page. Yeah.
I just tried to shrink you guys, and instead I shrank my screen, and I did this once before, and I just have to remember how to get out of it. Sorry. Come on, come on, come on. Oh, this is terrible. This is exactly the opposite of what I wanted to have happen.
Stop sharing for a minute. It might be easier for you to navigate. Can you do
It's that I
find? There you go.
yeah, it's that I clicked when I was trying to click the box on the right. Can we pause the recording?
Yeah, 1 second.
I'll get my students to edit this. So we've gone through the 4 guidelines. We took a look at an example here on the bottom. If you can click next just to get to the 4th guideline. Now let's dig into the first guideline. So next screen. So guideline 1, use concise and meaningful text for links. So what does this mean? It says, use descriptive text for the link that would make sense if it's read out of context from the rest of the text on the page. So when you have a URL address, it doesn't make sense when read aloud. But if you have an address that has a description, it should be able to read aloud. Why? Well, it benefits all users by making it easier to navigate documents. As you read through, you can actually see the description of where you're going and what's being asked of you. And next. This is the essential part. Oops, back. Screen readers can be used to read just links on a page. So if somebody's using a screen reader and they're reading your email, they may say, just read links. And if you are just reading links and it's a URL that has a lot of backslash, they don't have the context of what that is. And you should know, you'll see this in a future screen, the screen reader, when reading a link, always says before it, link. So if I had you going to the accessibility web page, Oswego accessibility web page, it would say link, accessibility web page. So don't worry about them being able to read the entire link. And I'll show you another way to handle this if you have print documents at the end. Okay, next. So here's some don'ts. Don't put in click here, learn more, read more, find out more. And I think I have one more. Click for details. These are not descriptive of the context of the content that you're directing them to or where their destination is. Let's get some do's. Click. Do, describe the destination. And do, the recommendation, keep it short. So 100 characters or less is ideal. So let's go on to an example. Here's an example. Don't. To learn more about contextual hyperlinks, click here. Don't do that. Instead, to learn more about contextual hyperlinks, go to www. No, don't do that either. Let's see a do. Do learn more about contextual hyperlinks. And remember, the screen reader will say, learn more about link contextual hyperlinks. So the person who is using a screen reader knows that that's a link that's right behind it. Okay, guideline 2, do not capitalize all the letters in links. Why? Well, it can be difficult for users with reading disabilities to understand. But the second one, which is big, is screen readers may read letter by letter, which can be very difficult to comprehend, and I imagine very frustrating for somebody using a screen reader. So that's why we don't capitalize all the letters in a link. 3, avoid using URLs for link text. I think we all know this. It's just annoying to most people because it can, as you can see, I had to just copy the URL in the chat to get you guys to the Google Doc. That's not ideal, right? If I had to verbally tell you that address, it'd be a mess. Screen readers will read, the URL letter by letter, which can be very difficult to interpret for a user. So again, think about that screen reader, but then also that's pulling you back, on their universal design for learning to be beneficial to everyone. So guideline 4, do not use the word link as part of the link text, because again, what I've told you is that screen readers encounter links, they add link at the start of the hyperlinked text. So, and somebody who sees the underlining, if you're using consistent, and this is in other presentations about formatting your work, if you're using a consistent color and if you're using consistent underlining, people recognize that as a link. So you don't need to tell them that what it is. So an example, SUNY Oswego website would be read as link SUNY Oswego website by a screen reader. Next. So I'm glad I kept this short today because we still have some time. I thought I'd use an example, and I'm not picking on anyone, from something I just recently got to add to my syllabus, which is the Clery Act, the Title IX reporting. And for the sake of the presentation, I'd actually like to read this aloud so that you get a sense of what the challenge is here. SUNY Oswego is committed to enhancing the safety and security of the campus for all its members. In support of this, faculty may be required to report their knowledge of certain crimes or harassment. Upon receipt of a report of harassment or discrimination based on sex, gender, pregnancy, and/or related conditions, or familial status, all employees have a responsibility to report to the Title IX coordinator. So far, so good. For more information about Title IX projects, go to https://www.oswego.edu/Title title-ix / or contact the Title IX coordinator 407 Culkin Hall 315-312-5604 titlelix@oswego.edu or schedule a meeting here tinyurl.com/MEETWITHLISAE. For more information about the Clery Act and campus reporting, go to the University Police Annual Report. I'm not going to read all those letters out, but I think you guys start to get the point. So it's your turn. What are the things that we could do if you could just come off mute to correct this?
So I'm embarrassed because I was there when this passed and I caught all of this and I didn't say anything about it. So hanging my head
Don't
in
be
shame.
embarrassed.
But so we could take the Title IX link and just say there's more information about Title IX protections, and Title IX protections could be the link to the Oswego link.
Okay.
Can we
And what
do
about the
same?
scheduling?
That should all be under schedule a meeting.
That'd be a good one, right? And then the university annual report, you could just put the link over university annual report, right? So go to the next slide.
So, but I have a question. So the concern would be if these are in paper syllabi.
Give me a pause on that one,
Okay,
and I'll come to that.
I don't disagree. I'm just
Right.
saying-
So I'm talking first about digital accessibility, right? So if these are
Yep.
screen readers going over them, and then I'm going to address that because I have the same concern. So the way I did it was visit Oswego's Title IX office website rather than just highlighting Title IX protections, because I want them to know where they're going, or contact, etc. I've kept the email address written out. This is, as I understand, a preference. Here, it's simply because you may want the person to actually be able to write down what that email address is because they are going to move into another application. I said, or schedule a meeting through their online scheduling app. I didn't just do schedule a meeting and make the link because that may not be intuitive to what that meant. And then finally, just the University Police Annual Report. Now, I'd like to add on to this two things. One is a pitch for my next session that starts at 10:30, which is about plain language. And the other is to address Michelle's question about print. So if you go to the next slide, here's another alternative. Oh, click one more time. Sorry, I made it animated. So I did violate, Gwen, a rule. I will add back in the sentence that I felt was not necessary and took out. But if I'm doing plain language, I'd say you guys repeat something twice. I imagine the faculty assembly meetings that negotiated that extra sentence in there. So you could keep the top the same, but what I changed was you can learn more about Title IX protections by and breaking it out into a structure that uses active verbs, creates clear priorities of what you need to do, and sort of takes the person through. So I use the same kind of link, but I said you can learn more about visiting the office website. I put up the ahead of the contact, the university annual report, because those two things are both destinations you can go to. Whereas the third point takes us towards interacting with a person. And I broke it out to going, calling, emailing, scheduling. So the idea here is that somebody can scan this quicker and be able to quickly recognize what they need to do in order to be able to use this information.
Does a screen reader read the checks?
Yeah, they read it as a list, and then they'll tell you that it's a sub list. And in fact, that's one of the primary reasons we advocate using bullets, is because it helps organize it for a screen reader so that they understand. If you are vision impaired, right, you understand that this is all still part of one thing. So then what I did was I imagined this was in my syllabus and I added a QR code. So if you guys use that QR code, and hopefully this works, it should take you to a Google Doc where I've put the same information, but now a screen reader could access it. And anybody else can click on those links in order to be able to then access that information. Did it work, Michelle? Oh, yay, some technology worked. So I think I added a final closing slide. Oh, yes, I said, this is my advertisement. In a few minutes, I'm going to be working on plain language. And so if that last piece interested you, I'd ask you to come back at 10:30. So I apologize for running a little over because of my own technical challenges. We have 7 minutes till I have to do another presentation. So if there are any questions or comments or ideas, let's do that. I do appreciate the applause there at the end.
Thank you so much.
Michelle, thank you so much for being my assistant on this. I think that I actually need to sign out and sign back in for the next one. Is that